Hello, welcome y'all. We're gonna wait for some more folks to join. Please make yourselves comfortable.
Deborah, when did this announcement go out that this class was going to be available? Your speaker's off.
I received it yesterday. It's been talked about for a very long time, but I didn't receive the notice until yesterday.
Yeah, same with me. Who did you receive it from?
Two sources, I believe, a woman named Harriet that I don't know.
I'm Harriet, and I'm your presenter.
Oh, hi, Harriet.
Thank you, Harriet.
Yeah, and apologies for the communication. As you know, life has been kind of crazy. So I got, I guess, Deb, you're one of the, are you the IPT person in Grand Junction? I can't remember your old.
Yes.
Yeah, got your emails from Jenna McAfee. And I also was told that the announcement had also gone out by other means, and I'm not sure. But Jordan told me a little while ago, Jordan is AFSC Colorado, the voice you heard earlier, that 46 people have signed up. So we should have a good group. And
Yeah, I really wish I would have known about it sooner. It's been on my mind and on my heart for months and months, as Deborah can attest. And I'm just so glad that I saw something come through from Karen Sherman Perez yesterday. But it really would have been good to know about it sooner.
Yeah, well, apologies, as I
Okay.
stated, but glad you're
There's
here.
just a few of us in Montrose.
That's where you are. Okay.
Yeah.
There were quite a few that I see that responded in the people that are on, that respond to that email I sent out yesterday as soon as I got it, Harriet. So thank you.
Yeah, as I said, Jordan said there were about 46 people, and it is being recorded. So that we can make it available that way.
Good.
Yeah. I don't think that we were able to figure out getting it taped so that it's video, but our voices will be heard. Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Mhm. Yep. So, we've all been facing a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. And Beatrice from CERC has been instrumental in putting this together, and I don't see her on yet. She helped. I'm now the co-host, just so you all know. She helped put this together.
Looks like a great you all. I keep seeing people pop up in the waiting room, so we'll just give them maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, and then I'll maybe I'll introduce Harriet real fast and then turn it over.
Hey, thanks.
I see Robin Cascade is signed up. She's in Ridgeway, so that's good.
Yep, she's there waving at you.
I don't see her, but
Yes, I don't know how your thing is set up, but I'm scrolling a minor across the top of my screen. I'm seeing people.
yeah, mine too.
She just waved at you when you mentioned her name.
Oh, good. Oh, there they are. Okay.
All right, looks like we have critical mass. Sorry, I'm over at Grandma's house. My name is Jordan Garcia with the American Friends Service Committee, and like Harriet shared, Beatrice from the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition is your Western Slope organizer and really requested that this happen, and we said we'd love to have as much as possible. Um, Harriet has been be your trainer tonight, and she has been, gosh, captain of the court accompaniment crew for the last couple of, well, probably the last couple of years, but then also has been doing it as a accompanier for even longer than that. So yeah, just really happy to have you all here, and yeah, really happy to turn it over to Harriet and to say you all are in very good hands. I'll hang out for a little bit longer and let people in um, from the waiting room, and then I'll probably log off after you all are settled. Okay, take.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Jordan. And thanks to everyone who is online with this. Apologies again for the late notice. As I say, you know, there's a lot going on, and we unfortunately are not all in control of it. Yeah, we're going to talk about court accompaniment training, which I understand you're interested in. Beatrice told me that many of you are confirmers through CORN, so you know your way around courtrooms and know the problems. The situation is a little different through court accompaniment, which I will explain. Also, you know, I'm here on the Front Range, and while I have been doing court accompaniment, actually it goes back 8 years. It started in the first Trump administration. Our situations are different, and logistically, your situations are different from what we experience here in the Front Range. So I know that I'm probably going to learn a lot from all of you this evening, and I look forward to that. So I'm going to tell you sort of what we're going to cover in this session, so you have an idea of where we're going. Talk about what accompaniment is, what it is not, sort of the logistics of putting it together, some how-tos and hopefully helpful advice, how to follow up, about check-ins, general court information, personnel. And then Beatrice said that you would also be interested in knowing a little bit about the federal immigration system, which the courts are here in Denver and Aurora. So the types of federal court hearings, and then protocol at the courts, what to do if ICE shows up, and hopefully more helpful information. And then some information also about GEO. American Friends Service Committee is a Quaker peace and justice organization. It's been around for decades and decades, 70 plus years here in Colorado. And the Colorado office has two programs. One is Coloradans for Immigrant Rights, which is a group of allies. So that's the group that I'm affiliated with. And also the Not One More table, meaning not one more deportation. And that is a group of immigrants. And that program started also probably about 8 years ago, and is both a support group, but also it has been a place where immigrant leaders have been able to be, oh, Beatrice is here, be developed. And a number of our leaders have gone to lobby in Washington, do it locally. So it's really been a great program for them. As I'm sure you are aware, immigration courts, and by that I'm talking about the ones here in Denver, are not part of the Justice Department, I mean, of the judicial branch. They are part of the Justice Department, so they're part of the executive branch. The courts that are located on the Western Slope are all part of the judicial branch. In thinking about what accompaniment is, I think the best thing to think about is it is about relationships. And we're here as accompaniers to support undocumented immigrants by accompanying them to their court appearances, ICE check-ins, other appointments where they might not feel safe. The primary purpose of court accompaniment is to offer emotional support to those individuals and to their families. Secondarily, it sends a message to the judge and other officials that these individuals have the support of their community. It also provides a role for us as allies to take part and to make a difference in other people's lives. Inside the courtroom, we hope people are able to actually sit with the individual whom they're accompanying. Although certainly here in Denver at the immigration courts, they have been so crowded and the rooms are so small that most of the accompaniers have often had to wait outside the actual courtroom. It's also important for the accompanier to perhaps have a relationship with the family. If the family members are undocumented, they're not going to want to go into the courtroom. And so generally before all this is, happened, the morning of the appointment or the day of the appointment, contact has been made, and it might be your responsibility to communicate with them as to what the outcomes are. That can sometimes be a very painful experience, and I can say that from my own personal experience of having to tell someone whose husband was in GEO, so she was not able to go in, not able to see him, that he was being deported, and she was not going to see him before that happened. When we started this program many years ago, and with working primarily with the members of the Not One More table, we had very personal relationships with them, and sometimes either before a court hearing or an ICE check-in, press or prayer vigils were held, sometimes even press conferences. That is not so much the case today, as people are coming up with whom we've not had a previous relationship. One other thing that we always remind people is when you do accompany someone, and this is where your situation and what happens here in Denver and the immigration courts are going to be different. Sometimes people will bring their families and their kids. Well, you can't have little kids in the courtroom. So sometimes as an accompanier, you end up taking care of children. And as Jordan likes to say, just push your ego aside and do it with great humor. And it actually can be fun. If the immigrant has an attorney, the attorneys very much appreciate the presence of accompaniers there, because once again, it's sending this message to the judges that the individual is supported by the community. Recently, I was accompanying someone who was actually incarcerated at GEO, someone who, through the Casa de Paz program of Cartas de Paz, and I can say more about that later if you have a question about it, I've been corresponding with for some time. And her asylum hearing I attended, as did some other Casa de Paz volunteers. She is someone who had been in California and in typical ICE fashion got transferred to Colorado, where she would not know anyone. However, her support group in California remained very much in contact with her, and she did develop a community here in Colorado through Casa de Paz. So there were 6 of us in the courtroom and 12 people online from California. And I have never heard a judge go on so long about how she realized this woman had such support from her community. So whether they say anything or not, I think the judges really are taken with the fact that people are there as accompaniers. All of that said, this training, we do not discuss politics and policies and laws. We all agree they are unjust. One thing about now into what accompaniment is not. We are not in a position to give legal advice. We're not there as legal assistants or advocates. And in cases where there is a lawyer, we have to be careful, because often the lawyer may modify his or her plan, and we might not totally understand what's going on. We're not there to interpret the lawyer's actions either. We're not there to fix people's problems, but we are there to support them in taking control of their own next steps. And that means we must accept their choices, even if we don't agree with them. One example from traffic court that I went to years ago with a woman who had a traffic problem and she figured she was going to have to pay the fine, and it was pretty hefty. And there were a few of us there as accompaniers, and as we were walking down the hall to the cashier, this was in Denver, one of the young accompaniers said, well, I can pay her fine. And she was like, no, this is my responsibility. I did the thing. I'm responsible. So happened I used to teach English as a second language. She was one of my former students. And, she told me I was prepared for this. And that was very nice of that young guy, but that's not help I was after. One of my friends was recently at court, and a young man whose case we had been following had really given up on being in Geo Detention Center, which is not the worst of detention centers in the United States, but it's pretty darn bad. And he chose not to pursue his case and went back to Venezuela. This is, of course, the country he fled, and he's communicated with people that he feels safer in Venezuela now than he did at Geo. So it's just a mixed bag of experiences. One thing, and this is, a little funny for those of you who are confirmers, we're not really the Colorado Rapid Response Network. We communicate with them if necessary. That work they're there to respond to raids or deportation or ICE activity that may be happening in their community. One of the things that I'm not going to talk about, but each of you in your localities where you do have people doing accompaniment will need to figure out, if you haven't already done so, and you probably have, how you are going to welcome requests from immigrants. We have little forms online to do that. And then how you are going to communicate those requests for accompaniment to your group of volunteers. So once again, that is for you to figure out. We do it, Jordan is the one who's sends out the accompaniment requests to our volunteers. It's sort of on a once a week basis. It depends upon the quantity and the timeliness of them. So that's for you to figure out. One of the things that I will suggest as components in your request, in what you're going to ask the people asking for accompaniment, is that they give you their complete names, their A numbers. That's not generally, for us anyway, required for ICE check-ins. It is required it's a good thing to know at the Federal Immigration Court. What their phone number is, what their languages are, if they do have an attorney name, who that person is or their firm, the name and location of their accompaniment site. We've had a couple of people recently who gave us the wrong location, but there was a way to figure that out. The time of their check-in or hearing, and what the purpose is. Is it a nice check-in, immigration court, criminal or traffic court, whatever. And then the number of people that they would like to have accompany them. Often the requests are made at the very last minute and provide only the bare bone details. So we just all have to accept that reality. Under the heading of how-tos and hopefully helpful advice, if you have signed up to accompany someone, it's a good idea to check in with them beforehand, either by phone or by text, to determine where you're going to meet, if it isn't someone you know, and how busy the place is where you might be meeting them. Your courthouses are all going to be different. You might describe yourself or send a photo or something like that. Certainly in the Denver Immigration Court, the lobby area before court time start can be very, very crowded. So we have to be particularly careful of that. Once you've met up, introduce yourself to the person that you're accompanying if you haven't already met them. And if they have family members, an attorney, be sure to introduce yourself to them. But certainly don't be offended if they are preoccupied with their case and what is going on. Many times we don't know the details of their particular case or have much background, but that's not really the purpose of our presence. We're there just to be there in solidarity. Someone might know something about the case. They'll probably share what information they have. We remind people over and over again, we're not there as legal assistants or advocates. Lawyers often modify things. We shouldn't try to interpret their actions. And generally, if there are attorneys involved, they don't usually give much information out before the hearing to accompaniers, but they very often welcome the opportunity to explain after the hearing what has happened and what it means in terms of future steps for the person. If you are able to enter the courtroom with a person, that it's not too crowded and there's space with you, try to sit with them or their family. And if not, wait in the hallway or whatever other waiting room might be available to you. I'm not certain about, the cases that you're going to be taking people to at the immigration court, a preliminary hearing, which we'll go into in a few minutes. There could be a lot of people whose cases are being heard, and it's a very short hearing. If your person happens to be at the end of the line, you may have to wait for a long time. That might not be the case for all of you. Another suggestion for you in terms of your organization is to find a way by some kind of a online questionnaire to have the accompanier report back to you how things went. And one person, if there are multiple accompaniers among them, please figure out who that might be that will take care of the court reporting form. That will give the details of the accompaniment and outcome and next steps. One of the things that is important, and I think it should apply to you as well, certainly for immigration judges, the University of Denver Law School has an immigrant program. I can't remember the exact title. Anyway, they're tracking judge behaviors. So we have a reporting form that gives space that if the judge didn't give clear instructions, was rude, didn't conduct the court in a way that we felt was reasonable, as reasonable as these court hearings can be, we let the DU project know, because they have a way, if they get enough reports, to put together something and report that to the judicial. I'm not sure exactly. I think it's to the AG's office or the state Supreme Court. I'm not positive of that. Anyway, if that comes up, we'd be happy to help with that. In terms of check-ins, I know that in the Western Slope, there's a nice check-in place in Durango and another one in Grand Junction. So I assume many of you probably have already been familiar with visiting those places. We have a couple here in the metro area as well. And so people are often called, and this is, I think, going to be increasing, to check in with ICE or for their intensive supervision appearance program, in which they may be getting ankle monitors. And you may have seen the news that BI Corporation, which is a subsidiary of the GEO Group, which is one of the private prison conductors, is ramping up production of ankle monitors so that they can be made available for more people. Previously, it's sort of like, what was during the Trump 1 administration, and when there really weren't as many requests, often family or clergy were able to enter with the person who was having the ICE check-in. I don't believe that's available anymore. Generally, accompaniers can't enter the ICE facility. There might be a waiting room somewhere in the office, and that just depends upon how your offices are set up. Also, when we had the Not One More members and we knew these people, sometimes they asked to have a prayer vigil outside before or after the appearance. And I was thinking about this today as I was like, no, we don't do that really anymore. But in your situations, that might be something to be considered, because once again, it delivers a message of community support. If there are a dozen people outside with this person, they may not even all go into the courtroom, but they're there in solidarity to support them. A little change, and I'm going to read this, but as of July of this year, if a parent being detained expresses that they have no alternative custody options for their child, ICE guidance is to involve local child protective services, and the kiddos could easily end up in state custody. And this pertains to children of any legal status, whether they're a citizen or not. The parent does have the right to take their children with them, but this instills even greater fear. And this points to, and this is something I won't get into, but maybe you could work with Beatrice, and I think some of your area has done it, to see that immigrants who are at risk have developed family protection plans, so that there's a designation as to what should happen to children, who's going to pay their bills and stuff there. And AFSC can provide information about that if that's something that you want to do. So I assume that those of you in Archuleta, Dolores, Hinsdale, La Plata, Montezuma, San Juan, and Miguel counties know that your ICE field office is in Durango at 33 Shepherd Drive. The Grand Junction office at 569 South Commercial Drive takes care of Mesa, Montrose, Delta, Uray, and Gunnison counties. At other, I think our program focuses so much on immigration courts that I sometimes forget we do just admitted someone, accompany people to federal court for other reasons, county or traffic courts. And there you generally go to the assigned courtroom. Once again, you have to figure out in your court locations how that's going to work. And I assume that there are going to be interpreters available to you in the courts. In immigration court, the person is either present or online. In our traffic court, at least in Denver, interpreters are provided, but they're in person, and they make their person go last. So that could be another waiting thing. So that's sort of it in terms of what I can share just about the program. Once again, I think the focus on court accompaniment, the key word is relationship and being there to provide emotional support, both to the person and to their family. I was also asked to, Deb just said commercial. I don't know if it's north or south, sorry about that. In the Denver area, there are two immigration courts. One is the Federal Immigration Court, which is downtown at 1961 Stout Street. There is also an immigration court in the Geo Detention Center. There's a little question right now whether or not how active those are, or if those hearings are being conducted virtually with the judges downtown. Please ask Carrie. I need to go just a second. I want to read that. Oh, go a little bit slower? Sure. Sorry. Okay, so federal courts here, downtown on Stout Street. There is an immigration court at Geo in Aurora. Little question as to how that is being handled at this point. The court personnel, generally there is a judge post-COVID, we think sort of the only certain presence in the courtroom, unless it's a virtual hearing. There's a clerk who may or may not appear in person, maybe just when the judge calls. A bailiff or a guard. In the federal court, that person just usually roams around. At Geo, it's a presence in the room at all times. An interpreter, generally in the courtroom, but could be virtual. And the government attorney, who also could be virtual, but usually is in the room. For the federal immigration court hearings, there are two types. The first is a master calendar hearing. This is a preliminary administrative hearing to go over what additional information may be required, often their biometrics, making sure all the forms are in. In this hearing, the judge states the charges and explains the person's rights and responsibilities. Individuals are advised that if they move, they must notify the court, because a change of address forms are included in the packet. Their information about their next hearing is going to be delivered by US mail. So if they don't have their correct address on file with the court, they could be in big trouble. The court is very good about making sure that is emphasized. As I mentioned before, these are the hearings that are very brief. I mean, if somebody's got all their ducks in a row, it's 5, maybe 10 minutes. So there are going to be a number of people, maybe as many as 25 or 30, who are going to be heard at the same time. So there's limited seating when these proceedings start, and the accompanier may very well have to wait in the hallway or the waiting room. Immigrants who are appearing, who have attorneys, are called first. Those without immigrant or attorneys are last. And at this point in time, most of the people being called for the master calendar hearings, they very rarely have an attorney, so they're on their own. The follow-up is called an individual hearing, and that could be months or possibly years later. And this is the hearing at which the individual's case will be heard to determine if they're going to be ordered to be deported or granted relief from removal. Hopefully, the person does have an attorney by this time to represent them, and I'm sure you've all seen the statistics. They're horrible for someone trying to represent themselves at this point in their case. And depending upon the circumstances of the person's case, people, accompaniers included, may or may not be allowed to remain in the courtroom. As an accompanier, you would have been told that before. We've had situations where such personal details were being given about their case and why they were seeking asylum that the person wasn't comfortable having people they didn't feel they know well. One in particular, they wanted a number of people in the room as the hearing started, when just sort of the generalities were being taken care of. But as soon as the real testimony came down, most people were asked to leave. And those of us, I was one of the people there, who knew the person and she was willing to share her story, which was pretty gruesome, were asked to remain. And the judge is aware of this and makes sure that the person's wishes are complied with. At the hearing, the judge may decide the case or advise that a written decision will be issued after the hearing. And the length of time for written decisions to be issued varies drastically. It could be weeks, it could be months, it even could be a couple of years. That maybe was a COVID problem, I don't know, but that is something we know. President Biden instituted a streamlined process for individual hearings so that they were to be heard in less than a year. I am not positive from what I've heard about follow-up dates for individual hearings that is really in place. Obviously, if it is, it's good in terms that the delay and the fear and the uncertainty are shortened. But it also puts on additional pressure to obtain an attorney. And I hope that on the Western Slope, you have some kind of list for pro bono attorneys for any of the types of cases. We do have, Deb, you're saying something and I can't hear you. Yes or no? Okay,
No.
go ahead.
We don't.
You don't, okay. We have lists and I can send it to, I'll send it to Beatrice and then she can distribute it to all of you. We have lists of pro bono immigration attorneys, and certainly they'll take cases across the state, but primarily they're here, located here on the Front Range. If the case is dismissed, and this is in a sense sort of a new thing in Trump 2, there is a risk of ICE taking the person for deportation as soon as they walk out of the courtroom. You know, I've read articles that the government, the administration is putting pressure on immigration judges, and remember, they are part of the Justice Department, so part of the executive branch, to dismiss cases knowing that ICE is going to be present. Robin just talked about maybe sharing something about Enrique. Do you want to do that now, or would you like to wait? It's up to you. Robin, do you have something
Yeah,
to share?
no, I chatted back. Enrique said that they do have a list of attorneys. And so
Oh,
he was
okay.
just asking if he would kindly, if he's at liberty to share that. Sorry
Okay.
to interrupt.
No, not at all. That's
Sorry,
great.
is that list though for our area specifically? Because I've asked for that list. Do you know?
She just put her hands up, not knowing.
Yeah, that
Let's
would
get
be
Enrique.
Enrique from Compañeros to
Yeah,
speak to that.
yeah. Is Enrique on? I am not aware of that.
Uh, I am on. So this list, we don't in Durango, Southwest Colorado, we don't have any immigration lawyers. Most of the immigration lawyers are in proximity to Geo, and there's a reason for that. But we do have organizations along the Western Slope that can offer immigration legal advice that are accredited organizations, and they too should also have that list because I think it is shared with them. But either way, I would say yes, it's specific to us because we don't have immigration lawyers where we live.
Okay, well, the list that I'll send Beatrice is from the American Immigration Lawyers Association. And I love it. They've titled it partial list. It's their list, but they say it's partial. Who knows? Okay.
I have a question along
Yeah,
those
sure.
lines again. Would Rocky Mountain Immigrant Advocacy Network have this list?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And,
Okay.
yeah, right. And that's Remain, known as Remain.
Right.
Yeah, and they have the list. They have great resources. I don't know that anyone has a completely total list, so it's good to get it from various sources.
Okay.
Okay, but any contact you have with Remain is positive. Other than they've lost a lot of their funding and their hands are greatly tied. So I'm going to go quickly into protocol. If you do end up accompanying someone to immigration court here in Denver, assuming you probably already know the person since you're both coming from wherever you're coming from on the Western Slope. But should you be coming separately, you want to make arrangements where to meet. There's a large lobby in the building at 1961 Stout Street. That's where we usually meet people. If the hearing is scheduled for, let's say, 1 o'clock, meet by 12:45. 15 minutes ahead is generally enough. If for some reason you're here for one of the initial hearings, I'd say be here about half an hour earlier just because there could be a lot more people. The morning sessions in court generally begin at 8:30 and the afternoon sessions generally begin at 1 o'clock. But of course, they could vary, those times could vary. Another thing, and I can put it in the chat in a second, and we've had this happen lately where there's been some confusion either on the part of the person who has a hearing or a switch on the part of the courts that the time and day that one might have originally thought was going to be the hearing time and day has been changed. So I will put in the chat as I can when I have time. There's a way you can look that up on the EOIR website. You just have to put the person's A number in and it'll tell you what their court hearings are. And this is a good idea to do for the Federal Immigration Court or even at the court at Geo. Once you arrived at the immigration court on Stout Street, as I said, there's a large lobby, and then there's a place where you sign in. You just put your time and your name. You go through security, and then you take an elevator up to the 3rd floor. On the 3rd floor, there will be a wall with a lot of glass cases that have all the court hearings listed for that time. So you look to find out which courtroom you are headed to. There are, I think, 5 courtrooms on the 3rd floor and a 6th courtroom on the 8th floor. And they're pretty obvious of what to do. Just a few reminders about court, and this applies really to any court. Courts are no phone zones, so do not make or receive calls, text, email, or try to record the proceedings. Once we were in a court, actually it was a criminal court in Jefferson County, and someone took a phone out. They really weren't going to use it, but they were holding it in their hand. The judge saw that, stopped the proceedings. Everyone had to get up, walk out, and then re-enter and sort of be checked by the guards. So they're serious when they say they don't want phones being used in courtrooms. Do not chat or whisper among yourselves. Do not read. Do not nod or sleep. And do not react to the rulings or the verdict if you hear it. That can be difficult to do, but try your best. And last but not least, do not wear shirts or other clothing with messaging on. What to do if ICE shows up? And I understand in La Plata County, all of the courts are in the same building, and there is a federal court in that building as well. Not an immigration court, but a federal, I guess, district court. Beatrice and Jordan have been in contact with someone from the ACLU to figure out where ICE can and cannot be. ICE does have access to federal courts, but under state law of Colorado, they're not to be anywhere near our county courts or traffic courts or whatever other kind of court there might be. So that's sort of a tough one. Certainly, I'm sure in your situations, in your localities, ICE has been in and around the courtrooms. That happens here in Colorado. And since Memorial Day, so May 27th, we have had what we call Court Watch, which is a separate program from Court Accompaniment, which is specifically having people at the court, outside, inside, just trying to monitor what ICE is doing, being there in case something happens. Whether we can really take credit for it or not, the number of detainments has decreased, but that doesn't, reduce the amount of fear that people have. Court Watch folks have a little flyer that they give people. There's usually somebody standing outside handing people a little flyer that tells them what to do or not to do if ICE is there, and also if their court case is being heard and their the judge says, I want to dismiss, there's instructions saying, I don't want it dismissed, I want to continue. So this is, a difficult situation. ICE is obviously getting more and more aggressive. The big beautiful bill is going to fund ICE and detention centers, to the extreme over the next few years. And they detain people seriously with no rhyme or reason. I believe you're all familiar with CORN, and that if you see something, be sure to call their hotline, 1-844-864-8341. If you're not inside a courtroom, but in a hallway and you can take pictures, or you're outside to try to identify if they're ICE, try to get as much information as you can. So in case they are breaking the law, that can be followed up on. Under the heading of maybe some more helpful and hopeful advice, in Denver, at least for immigration court, the possibility of someone appearing virtually has become a reality. The person has to apply. It's a process. But just today, I was told that one of the people who'd signed up for accompaniment next week got approved for a virtual hearing. That then raised the question of, what am I supposed to do? And I did a little Googling and found out what the instructions were for him on how to participate in that. So there is a possibility, and I don't know as much about, traffic courts and other, let's say, eviction courts or something, as I'm sure many of you do, but if there is any way that the court issue can be taken care of earlier, perhaps than the assigned date, to throw ICE off, if ICE somehow is able to get a list of, what hearings are going to be taking place in whatever courts you have, try to do that, or change the time during the day. If the person is afraid of ICE, hopefully through your organizations and groups, you have ways to encourage them to ask for an accompanier so that they have that support with them. As I mentioned earlier, undocumented family members or friends shouldn't enter courthouses, so some kind of communication should be set up with them. At least in the federal court, it's impossible for the person not to be identified by name. I mean, their name is on a list, they're in the courtroom. For us, there's only one way to exit the building through the main lobby, except if they have been detained by ICE. And the courtrooms are located at the ends of the hallways where there are stairwells. And for those who have been detained, and I believe that's been 10 here in Denver this summer, they have been taken down those stairwells. If the person is fearful, we've added new advice, which is they could perhaps change their clothing by adding or removing a jacket, put a scarf on, put a hat on, something that sort of hides their appearance as they walk out the building. If the person has an accompanier, certainly, offer to see them to their car or whatever transportation they have so that they feel safe. If you are coming from, oh, thank you for the person who loves our tactics. Hold on, somebody's just coming. Okay. If you do go to Geo, and that is a possibility, the protocol there is very different. You would definitely feel that you are in a prison because even though we call it a detention center, it is indeed a prison. They also have a lobby. You go and you check in with them, and there you do sign in and give a lot more information. Your own name and address, the person's name you are there to witness their hearing of, what their A number is, and then you also have to hand over your driver's license, and you get a little badge. And then you wait in the lobby until you're called. At Geo, you may not take in your wallet, your phone. If you bring them into the building, they do have some little lockers you can put them in. So you can have glasses, car keys, Kleenex, lip gloss, and you might want to try to have a small piece of paper and a small pencil in your pocket if you don't have a good memory for what you might need to remember. So Geo is very strict. So you wait in the lobby. Before the court hearing starts, a guard comes and calls for the people who are there for court hearings. And then you go in, you wait in another little area for a few minutes. Then a door is unlocked and you go, there's another locked door. You wait, you go through that door. Yes, there's going to be yet one more locked door. And then you're in a hallway. And there are a few courtrooms there, and the list outside of each courtroom tells you which room your person is going to be in. As I mentioned, phones, electronic devices, purses, briefcases not allowed in the courtroom. Let's see. At Geo, there is no freedom of movement. You will be directed, if you're there, you are directed when and where to go and to move. The benches are not particularly comfortable. This was years ago. There was a group of us going, and usually you're put in the back row. But one of my friends said, I happen to be the first person in line. One of my friends said, don't sit in the back row. So I tried to sit in the second of the back row, and this guard who came up to about my shoulder, I'm kind of tall, came up to my shoulder and said, you can't sit there. So there's no messing around at jail. Also, and this is what I think is really horrific, if you happen to be in proximity to the person whom you are accompanying physically, in physical proximity, you may not touch them. And as you're exiting, you may pass by. And one time I was able to give somebody a back rub without the guard seeing me, but another time I did hug the person, and the guard snapped at me and said, "You may not touch that person." This person had just been going through a horrible asylum hearing, to which I said to the guard, we are human beings. And the guard snapped back and said, "There are rules." So as I said, at Geo, there's really no messing around. Questions. I'm sure you guys have questions or want to share information among yourselves and with me. I would really appreciate that. Anybody want to speak? If so, just go for it. Nobody's raising their hand? I can't see. Okay, Deb, go for it.
You mentioned that the intake center on Commercial Avenue in Grand Junction would be a place where we could actually meet. Now, this is totally unknown to
Well,
or anyone I've
but-
ever talked to in Grand Junction, that we would be able to enter that ICE administration office.
well, as I said, it varies by location. The ICE check-in center in Centennial, which is the mothership of all ICE official offices in Colorado, used to be that you might be able to go in and sit in the lobby. That is no longer the case. We now have, at least in our area, two ISAP check-in sites, which are part of ICE. And you can go into the office, but once again, you're in a lobby. You're not in with the person having the meeting. How it is at the offices in Durango and Grand Junction, I have no idea. You'd have to go and just look around and see what it is. Certainly you could, wait outside, and that's what we have to do in Centennial, is we stand outside and wait for the person. So, a lot of this varies, and, I'm sorry I don't have better information about all your facilities and courts and stuff of how that may have happened. Okay. Tom, are you done, Deb, with your question?
I am. I just hope that you had more information for me.
Oh, yeah. So the other thing before I go to the people who have their answer is stuff changes all the time. So seriously, something that I am saying tonight, tomorrow could be different. One person, I did just see the question, is there a Zoom? No, there's a verbal recording being made. Jordan, it turns out, lives in a household with COVID, so he's quarantined. Our hope was that he was going to film this, but I don't want to be in the same room with him. So it's just a verbal thing. Okay, Robin, I see your hand up.
Tom, did you want to go first? You had a hand
Yeah,
up.
thank
Okay.
you.
Tom.
Harriet, I missed the part how accompaniers are notified by Jordan. Could you repeat that?
Oh, okay. That's only if you're coming to immigration court. So your system is going to be different. If you are going to come with somebody to the federal immigration court, if you could just send Jordan an email, jgarcia@afsc.org. But for most of your logistical stuff, you're taking care of it yourself. We can't get involved. Ours is so complicated and crazy that I'm sorry we can't take that on. But if you are coming to Denver for something, if you get in touch with either Jordan or me, we'd be happy to help in whatever way we can and provide information and stuff.
And Harriet, the likelihood of somebody from the Western Slope and Grand Junction going to Denver, is that needed, or you should probably have enough people out there already, right?
Oh, yeah, we do. But, you might have already developed a relationship with somebody that you want to come with them. And that's where I don't know enough about your organizations. We haven't gotten, we're certainly happy to do that. One time I actually did sign up. This was pre-COVID, signed up to accompany somebody from Durango who was coming to the federal court. And we'd been in touch. There was a horrific snowstorm. His hearing was on a Monday. They came in God knows how they got here through the mountain passes and stuff in the snow. And the court, because there was so much snow, the court was canceled the next day. And the person never was in touch with us again. What happened to their case, I don't know. If somebody is having a federal hearing, chances are they are going to come here unless they can arrange a virtual hearing, and that's becoming more of a possibility. So I think if you do have folks who are coming to Denver, let's take care of that as the as the case arrives. Somebody just posted USCIS and ICE are different. Yes. USCIS is the immigration service. So if somebody has, green cards, applying for citizenship, that's the group they go through. T visas, U visas. T visas are for persons who are trafficked. U visas are for people who are cooperating with local police officials because they were victims of a crime. Okay. Tom, any more questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Robin, you're next.
Yeah, I kind of have two thoughts, and they really are for the people in the Zoom room here.
Good.
The first one is, in my mind, I think of the need for accompaniment, even just to our county courthouses for immigrants who are frightened. I obviously didn't read the fine print. I wasn't even thinking about ICE proceedings. I was just thinking, like you said, traffic stops or having to pay DUI or whatever. So that's one thing I'm just curious if other people are thinking about. And the second one is how we might organize. Um, it's kind of like a cluster of Durango area. There's a bunch of folks here from Montrose County, it seems, and then Grand Junction. And I didn't know if Beatrice was already thinking about how we might organize ourselves. Because if we get off this call and what Harriet is saying, that's up to you to figure that out. Like I'm at a total loss. And Beatrice, so I don't know if we count on our member organizations of CERC on the Western Slope to reach out to them to see if because somebody has to follow the docket or they have to know who's going when, where, and what the needs are. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, Beatrice, but if you have thoughts for us or somebody else, who's
Well,
done.
before Beatrice speaks, let me say, I don't know if you have, Enrique, I'm not sure of your organization,
Companieri.
yeah, Compañeros, where you have groups of people, immigrants, and you make aware the fact that you have folks who are willing to go with them to their court appearances. That's how we do it, it's through different organizations. If you have Spanish language radio, in your area, which I am assuming you probably do it there. Let churches know, you have to do some outreach, I guess, is what I'm saying, to let people know that you exist. The other thing, before I let you all figure it out yourselves, I'm going to say, I know that you have IPTs, Immigration Protection Teams in Durango, Cortez, Paonia, and Grand Junction. That would be another way for volunteer accompaniers to organize themselves. Now I will shut up and let you guys figure it out. Beatrice, I think
Compañeros
you're on.
has been offering court accompaniment since before the first Trump administration. It's something we've always kept an eye on because of that combined court. And also before the law about ICE not being allowed in court, we had a huge ICE presence. it's in my opinion, everything Harriet's saying is absolutely right. And it's also not as complicated when you're in a smaller community as opposed to a bigger city. People know our organization directly, so they just send a message to me or Beatriz, and we organize together. And we are right now in the initial steps of getting that list of actual court accompaniment volunteers that are going to start responding to these requests.
Okay, and Enrique, are you in Durango?
Yes.
Okay. And hopefully you guys can share with people in the other localities, because I'm just going to show my ignorance of how we're organized, but every county is going to have some level of court. Is that correct? I should probably know the answer to that question. I'm sure Grand Junction has courts, just because it's bigger.
I've started the process of talking to the Mesa County Public Defenders
Mm-hmm.
to see how we might be able to work with them. I'm open to any suggestions on how we can get this infrastructure going here. You've made some good ones as far as contacts with possibly La Plaza and the churches to get direct contacts with the immigrants themselves. But the public defender's office will work with us and give us referrals.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be
Yeah,
fantastic.
that's right. Yes, and Carolyn from Ouray County let me know that Ouray County has a courthouse, so that's good. Yeah, something I just had it and a thought and it escaped me. Keep talking, maybe I'll remember. Yeah, I mean, you know, for us, because our volume is probably greater, you know, there's a program called Sign Up Genius, and that's where people actually sign up and the details of each person's request are visible. So, you know what time and day and what the person's name and A number are. So, but, you know, there are various ways that you could figure out how to communicate that information.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, I'm happy like I develop in collaboration with the confirmers, local confirmers, and the Rapid Response Network of the Southwest Rapid Response Network. They are very well organized, and they already create some forms where we're able to have a more structured volunteer list. So every time if we have some request, they can sign up with a request, and then the message it's sent to those volunteers that are in the list, and whatever, say I can, make it or not. My suggestion is to be able to have the conversations with the organizations that are helping the directed impacted. So for example, in the cases, CIRC members are the ones that are helping connecting with that. So unfortunately with CIRC, we're just working with organizations, groups, allied churches, and I can help bring in the volunteers on. But I think working locally with those organizations that are providing those direct services are the most trustable ways to connect with those in needs of the people who needs to be accompanied. So my suggestion will be just to talk with, the leaders of those organizations and the leaders of the community members that know what the need is, and have some sort of like tracking system. I can send you, my form, and you can develop, based on my form. We can just duplicate it and send you whatever we already developed, so you can develop your own systems. But I think it's the seed starting is through create that connectivity with the people that have the need to go to the court.
Yeah, and a couple of people have put in the chat that they're working with their courts or their public defenders. When I saw the word public defender, I thought, oh, you know, immigrants in immigration proceedings, there is no access to a public defender. You know, that's why the pro bono attorney list is so important. Whereas if somebody has, you know, a traffic offense or eviction or something, you know, they have access to a public defender, hopefully. It's a big difference. So if you are able to coordinate with your local officials, that is great to see that folks can get help. And, you know, Beatrice, in our communication, and this is the first time we're actually seeing each other face to face. Hi there. You know, was saying that ICE is all over the place, and it is. And unfortunately, you don't always know who they are. When we started the Court Watch, there was this guy, and I guess he was with ICE. I don't know. I have done Court Watch a few times. I don't do it a whole lot because I'm busy trying to help coordinate our court company. But there was the guy in the plaid shirt, and everybody we're on Signal without Jeffrey Goldberg and Pete Hegseth. We're the guy in the plaid shirt. And so I was there one day in the plaid shirt that had been going on for a while. And I saw this guy in a plaid shirt and I was like, well, I've seen a guy in a plaid shirt and I don't know if it's the same one. And I said, do you suppose this guy only owns one plaid shirt? So you don't know what ICE is going to look like. They could look like one of the other descriptions was goons or thugs, or they might actually have something on. You never know. Something that does identify them. And also vehicles. That's another thing, particularly outside the federal courthouse. We take pictures of the vehicles because they're, you know, first of all, it's a federal building. I mean, John Hickenlooper's office is in the same building. And, you know, so there are reasons for the federal police to be there, but it's scary. And we have had situations, I don't know if how familiar you are with Denver, where the federal court building is probably about a mile away is where the Denver district courts are. And there have been ICE people there in violation of state law because they're not supposed to be there, hanging out. And I can't remember how recently this was, months ago, maybe even before this recent just crush, where there was a nice guy standing in the hallway. The immigrant walks out of the courtroom, takes a picture, sends it to his buddy who's standing downstairs outside the building so the guy can nab him. I mean, that's the kind of people that we're dealing with. And I wouldn't put it past them that they're, you know, doing that in your locale too. Who knows? So, anything else that I can help you with or say? I mean, it's great that you guys are doing this. And, you know, I think logistically it's a little harder for you because you're spread out and your systems are different, but you're there and that's what counts. And people really, really do appreciate it. It's, you know, it's like, I think anytime you volunteer for something, you're told, yes, you're doing something, but you get more in return. I feel very definitely that that's the case with court accompaniment or any of these works, confirmers doing the corn work. That's just what we're called to do right now. So
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
thank you.
If anybody, you know, wants to follow up with conversations for the people who is here and already is excited about being a volunteer, please reach out to me so I can maybe start a list of the people who participated and to be able to sign up, and I can, you know, separate the people by the regions. But my email, I'll put it, we'll put it in the chat. So give me 1 second. But yeah, please, thank you so much for supporting your region and supported for the people in the community. There is very scary times. People is scared. I received so many requests just today. And I think it is a need. So we definitely need you and the support. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Harriet, for helping us organize and getting the knowledge from your experience.
Well, thank you. I'm hope that it was helpful. And as I said earlier, you know, if there's anything that we can do, in terms of, helping think through things or offer information that we might have, we'd certainly be happy to do that. This is a partnership for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna stay on because I've been made the host, so I think I have to be the last person off. But we will say goodnight to everyone and thanks so much for hanging in there and hope you can enjoy the rest of your evening. Oh,
Yeah.
somebody just entered the waiting room.
Oh, no.
Yeah, sorry, but we're about to close. Okay. Okay, so because I haven't done this thing before of being the host, if people could exit the room, that would be great. Or I may just hit the end button. Maybe I have that power. Who knows?
Yeah, you can give the power to just close the room.
Okay, all right.
Also,
Fair
well,
warning. I'm going to take this power upon myself. I'm going to end it. Thanks so much and looking forward to working with you. Take care.